Hi, my name is Dr. Jones and I'm a Senior Lecturer in Organic Chemistry at Queen Mary, University of London. In this video, I'd like to give you an overview of the Chemistry Department, in particular the research that we do. And if you'd like to learn more, then please visit our website or you can follow us on Twitter. We have 23 permanent members of staff coming from a range of different countries around the world and all hold teaching qualifications from the Higher Education Authority. Now, this is the UK body for accrediting higher education teaching. Whilst we have a number of staff who are focused solely on delivering and innovating high-quality teaching, the majority of us also combine our teaching activities with performing cutting-edge research. In this presentation, I'd like to give you a flavour of what types of research we do in the department and show how this impacts society in everyday life. Now, it's important to recognise that the staff members typically don't perform the research themselves. Instead, they lead their own teams of researchers dedicated to a particular topic. Now, the people in these teams include PhD and postdoctoral students, but we also welcome final year project students into our labs. These are both the 3-year bachelor's and 4-year master's students who will undertake their own small project within a research group. So if you're thinking of studying on one of the chemistry programs at QM, then this will be you in just a few years' time. Staff are international leaders in their research fields. For example, we publish papers in top international journals, we present work at international conferences, and we collaborate with a range of industrial companies. To put the research we do in some context, every 7 to 8 years there is a national review of all the research departments in the UK called the REF. The last assessment was done in 2014, and amongst the 40-odd chemistry departments in the UK, QM was ranked 7th overall for the quality of the research papers produced. This is great, and we have high hopes to go even better in the forthcoming assessment next year. Now, another marker of research quality can be seen in who has decided to fund the work. We receive money from national research councils. These are the government agencies who allocate taxpayer-funded money, as well as societal bodies like the Royal Society of Chemistry. We also get money from industrial companies who have a commercial interest in developing a particular topic of research. Now, grant applications typically have a 5 to 25% success rate, so you can see that there's only a small proportion of research proposals that actually receive any money. So this process is how the overall quality of research in science is maintained, and therefore receiving a grant is a good indication of the importance of the work. Okay, so that's a pretty whistle-stop introduction to the world of research science in general, but now I'd like to show you exactly what we research in the chemistry department. So first of all, chemistry is a large subject that covers the diverse disciplines of inorganic, organic, and physical chemistry, and I'm sure you'll be familiar with these from your A-level modules. In the department, we have divided these areas into 3 main research themes: functional materials and nanoscience, physical and computational chemistry, and synthesis and catalysis. Over the remainder of the video, I'll briefly introduce these 3 themes to you and dip into a couple of specific examples in the functional materials theme, as well as my own area of research, which is in synthesis and catalysis. Okay, so our largest section is functional materials and nanoscience. This broadly spans inorganic and physical chemistry, as well as combining aspects of synthetic chemistry. An example of one of the cool topics on which the team works comes from Professor Rosmini. Her group design and synthesize bespoke polymers that recognize specific molecules. This allows the polymers to selectively extract individual molecules from solutions that contain a wide mixture of compounds. These are called molecularly imprinted polymers, and Professor Rosmini's group have designed them to recognize caffeine, and these have then been used to decaffeinate coffee mixtures in a collaboration with the Italian coffee company Illy. Another example of the work done here are the superhydrophobic surfaces developed by Dr. Yao Lu. Now, hydrophobicity is the property of repelling water, and Dr. Lu has taken inspiration from lotus leaves that we see in nature. Now, you might have spotted how these leaves cause water to bead very quickly. As such, these superhydrophobic surfaces can be used to coat glass for self-cleaning window panes that need water to run quickly off their surface. Okay, now I'll focus a bit more closely on the research done in Matteo Palmer's group. His group developed strategies to control the assembly of nanostructures with single molecule resolution. And nanostructures are materials that are measurable on the nanometer scale. Remember, this is 10 to the minus 9 meters, and single molecules typically range from about 0.01 to 0.1 nanometers in size. The Palmer group used 2 main building blocks in their studies: carbon nanostructures such as CNT, so carbon nanotubes or graphene, as well as DNA origami. So DNA origami is a term given to a strand of DNA that's been specifically made to adopt a folded shape. We can see a schematic example of this with my slide here in the bottom right, where the DNA strand adopts a linear structure with specific places where it folds back on itself, in this case making a small square sheet. The origami pattern has been further developed to position reactive sites that stick out from the flat sheet, and this is where Dr. Palmer's group do further reactions to join different molecules to the original DNA origami. Now, his group had developed nanoscale chips for molecular optoelectronic, biosensing and biomimicking applications, as well as using them in renewable energy. They can do this by working at the interface of chemistry, biology, engineering and physics. This is a rapidly growing area of contemporary research, and Dr. Palmer's group receives funding from a range of different sources. These include the UK Government Research Councils, the Royal Society of Chemistry, and the United States Air Force. Another growing area of chemistry research are organic electronics. Dr. Christian Nielsen and his group combine organic chemistry with physical chemistry to develop new materials that can be used in a range of electronic devices. Now, Dr. Nielsen's group typically focus on making large conjugated molecules which have systems of alternating double and single bonds. So if we remember, that means that each atom has at least one vacant or one available p orbital that will be aligned in a parallel sense to make this conjugated system. Dr. Nielsen uses the conjugated molecules, in one example that we see at the bottom of the screen here, as ion sensors. And we can see in these pictures how they undergo stark colour changes upon binding, in this case, sodium ions. This provides a clear visual readout of the presence of ions in solution and is really useful for various applications. Okay, so our next research theme is physical and computational chemistry, and here my colleagues' work spans a wide range of topics. Dr. Greg Chass uses computational models to investigate the factors that govern the strength and toughness of cements, which I'm sure you can tell has clear links to the building and construction industries. Elsewhere, Dr. Ariana Fornelli studies the structure and shapes of proteins. Now, these are key to their function in the body. However, proteins are extremely large molecules, which means they're really challenging to understand and they require a huge amount of computer power for the simulations. So Dr. Fornelli has developed simpler methods to overcome these computational hurdles, and her work is helping to unravel the mysteries of how a number of proteins work in the human body. Finally, Dr. Di Tommaso is concerned with how molecules crystallize in solution. When molecules crystallize into their solids, this is really important for pharmaceutical compounds, because it's imperative to have a specific crystal form of the drug, otherwise it won't dissolve correctly in the body and it won't interact with the right biological receptors. Now, at best, this means the drug will just be ineffective, but it could also lead to unwanted side effects. So crystallization and modelling that is a vital part of the drug development pipeline, and this receives huge scrutiny in the drug licensing process. As a result of this, Dr. Di Tommaso has received funding from the pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca to support his work. Okay, our third and final research theme is synthesis and catalysis. And this covers mainly organic chemistry. Now, we focus on making small molecules that will be used in pharmaceutical chemistry, agrochemistry, so things like insecticides, pesticides and fungicides. We also make coloured dyestuffs and also overlap with organic materials, as we saw with Dr. Nielsen. So our interests span a wide range of different types of chemistry. For example, Dr. Arseniadis uses naturally occurring DNA single strands to help catalyse reactions that make small molecules with specific chirality. And if you remember, chirality is a spatial arrangement of atoms. Dr. Peter Wyatt makes small molecules with large numbers of fluorine atoms. These fluorinated compounds are excellent at increasing the distance that data can travel along optical cables before the signal becomes attenuated. And this has great potential for use in the communication industry. Dr. Cambero developed special catalysts that absorb light to provide the energy to drive chemical reactions on small organic molecules. Now, this works in a similar manner to how plants absorb light during photosynthesis. Finally, my group is interested in exploiting small molecules called arines. These are highly reactive species and only exist for a few milliseconds each. However, we can use the high levels of energy to develop new synthetic methods, and I'll summarise some of these for you on the next slide. So we think about synthetic organic chemistry as the making or breaking of chemical bonds, then it's key that we can choose which bond to break and what to replace it with. So when we want to make a new molecule, let's consider the types of chemical reaction available to us as a toolbox that we can dip into when we need. So our research is primarily focused on improving and expanding this reaction toolbox. This can be done by making an existing reaction more efficient or more selective, or even perhaps developing a totally new process, and we've done these using arines in a range of different projects. So our main research topics focus on heterocycles. These are generally nitrogen, oxygen, or sulfur containing ring systems that are vital to drug discovery and agrochemical development. And you can see here in the top right hand corner of the screen examples of particular heterocycles we've worked with. Now, in order to synthesize more advanced heterocycles for the pharmaceutical and agrochemical industries, it's highly desirable to attach chemical groups with different properties to the ring. Now, ideally we do this by selectively substituting a carbon-hydrogen bond on the heterocycle. And again, in the top right here, see we've highlighted a particular CH bond in green. However, this process is really challenging as the CH bond is particularly strong, so most progress has been made using metal catalysts that can be expensive and sometimes toxic. But we've managed to exploit the high level of reactivity of our ions to selectively manipulate CH bonds in nitrogen heterocycles without having to use metals. What was great was when we came to publish this work, we were asked to produce some artwork as the journal wanted to feature our research on the cover. What was really nice was that this meant I got to discover hidden talents my students had up their sleeves as they designed and drew this cool cover picture up in the top left. Now, whilst our primary interest is in developing new organic methods, we also work closely with experts in other areas of science in order to apply our research. For example, we work with biologists to develop small molecules that are active against different diseases, such as cancers and inflammation. We also work with colleagues at Queen Mary in the functional materials theme to design and develop new materials for the energy sector. For example, we've recently worked on a project to develop new hydrogen fuel cells. And finally, we've also developed metal ion sensors, in this case to detect zinc cations in biological cells. We've made a composite molecule, that you can see in the bottom left here, in a cartoon sort of sense, that exploits easy to detect fluorescent changes when it binds zinc, so when zinc is present in solution. Right, so I hope I was able to give you a flavour of some of the research that we do in the chemistry department here at Queen Mary, and hopefully also explain a little about what goes into research in general. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with me if you have any questions about anything in the video. You see my email is at the bottom of the screen. Likewise, if you'd like any more information about joining us to study on one of our chemistry degree programs, then please contact either Dr. Tipu Sharif or Dr. Leslie Howe. Finally, I hope you're all able to keep well in these current times, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.